Hello, I'm non story corner. One non story to our woman who come. Something mama can ya call coin. Woman non story corner. Never mama could hold it to her. Yam Buhoma Yakotari. Wama can not see her.
Antropólogo llama papui mi heite, wama kuko taomi, wama que estudiando mo hotel taomi heja. Ya tema wai kirayoma, wama kumai, shori mi ham greko, kami yama hotam hotel mi kam kulipa.
The more you accomplish, the more jealousy you inspire. The more jealousy you inspire, the more vigorously you are attacked by your jealous competitors who've been outdone. And this tends to be stronger in a discipline like anthropology whereas there's absolutely no agreement about anything. They not only don't have standards of proof, they don't even want to agree on whether there's a real world or not. So given the lack of any real standards for settling issues, the attacks become more vigorous. And I think Napoleon Chagnon has the distinction of being the only anthropologist that's ever been accused of genocide.
Les Indiens, qu'on appelle communément Waika, se nomment dans leur langue Yanomami. La densité de la forêt, l'humidité, les serpents, les moustiques, les ont tenus à l'abri de tout contact avec ce qu'il est convenu d'appeler la civilisation. Leur société obéit à des règles qui lui sont propres. Leur culture est parfaitement vierge de toute influence extérieure. Les étudier, les connaître, c'est nous connaître nous-mêmes si nous savons nous garder de tout esprit de supériorité. Les seuls matériaux dont ils disposent leur sont fournis par la forêt. Le bois, les lianes, les feuilles, les os et les dents des animaux et des poissons. Toute leur technologie en découle. Pas de classe sociale, pas de chef, pas de dieu, pas d'argent.
The Yanomami are relatively unique in the modern world because they are one of the few tribes remaining that lived in the kinds of conditions that our ancestors lived in, without a nation state to constrain and interdict their political behavior.
What we are seeing in the Yanomami is something approaching humanity as it existed for 500,000 years. What we see in New York or Brasilia or Paris is the way humanity has existed only for at most 3,000 or 4,000 years. So from a purely scientific sense, they are extremely valuable as a source of knowledge. We should learn everything we can about them, what they know, how they feel, what their motivations are.
Certainly there are a lot of other anthropologists who've contributed to the awareness of the Yanomami in the world, but it still is a fact that probably 3 or 4 million American students alone have read my book on the Yanomami. And they became famous largely through my publications and through the films that I made with Timothy Ash.
When I first went to live with the Yanomami, they wanted to know my name. I told them that it was Chagnon, or Chagnon, but they couldn't pronounce it. It sounded to them like their name for a pesky bee, Shanki, and that is what they decided to call me. To the Yanomami, I am the man called Bee.
By then, a lot of survival groups, conservation groups, were beginning to learn more about the Yanomami, and they all wanted to have the Yanomami in their portfolio because everybody is looking for the most desirable product to sell. Even among rock stars like Sting, they all want a part of the action and be associated with the Yanomama now that they have become famous.
Unlike our civilization, which uses natural resources with little or no thought for the future, the Yanomama are perfectly adapted to the place in which they live. Undisturbed, their way of life could survive for another 20,000 years and more.
So the Yanomama became misrepresented by these survival groups as being the most innocent, flawless, altruistic, noble savages in the world. And in a sense, I think that that's kind of racist. They seem to assume that no people are worthy of our support and our sympathy unless these people are pure as the wind-blown snow. Most of the books written about tribal peoples in anthropology would emphasize, sometimes even in the title of the book, how peaceful, lovable, gentle, noble, innocent these people were. When it became clear the very first day that the Yanomama were still engaged in tribal warfare, that was astonishing to me. And after I collected data on maybe a dozen villages, I began adding up the number of people who died violently. And after about a year, I was able to demonstrate that about 1/3 of all the adult males died violently. Now that's a very high fraction of the adult male population. Furthermore, I also then discovered that approximately 40% of all men aged 25 and older participated in the killing of at least one other person. So when 40% of the population has committed a homicide, you're not talking about a peaceful tribe.
The Yanomama have evolved a complex system of controlled violence within which they can legitimately express their ferocity. These men are emotionally wrought because the headman of their village was killed by raiders. Intoxicated on drugs, they are compelled by their headmen to fight with each other. This will allow them to discharge their frustration at the death of a dear kinsman. They will leave on a raid to kill their enemies the following day.
When I published my first book, shortly after I completed my first year of field research, I subtitled it, The Fierce People. The title was Yanomama, The Fierce People. So because the Yanomama themselves regarded themselves as fierce and valiant, I used that as the subtitle, at least during the first 3 editions of my book, which has now gone through 5 editions.
I read Chagnon's book in the 60s, a child of the 60s, if you will, in which I thought, wow, isn't this exciting? Look at the way he outwitted them. It was like Indiana Jones of today. And I thought, wow, this will really excite them. In those days, we had to do films rather than all this newer technology. And so I was rewinding the film after it was over, and a student came up to me. I said, wasn't that a fantastic movie? And he said, no. And I looked and said, what was wrong with it? He said, you taught us to really appreciate others in their own context and appreciate them. These people came out looking like disgusting savages.
Dedehe offered to kill by sorcery any enemy Lelebawa chose to specify. Lelebawa asked him to send Hekura to destroy the souls of children in the distant village of Mahikoto-Teri.
I thought about it. I acknowledged it was the one with the green slime coming down their noses, and I never used it again.